Hello, everyone. Oh, there's an echo. That's better. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. I'm Christine Jossie of Mail Something Pretty, and welcome to our weekly live. I go live almost every Tuesday at this time of day. So if you are watching live, welcome. It's nice to have you here. If you're watching the replay, welcome. It's nice to have you here as well. Um, and I always like to make sure. Usually, I have a couple. Yep, perfect. Didn't even have to say it. Hi, Kim. I always like to know that everything is working good. And so it seems like it is. So awesome. So I have a fun card, and actually, Kim, it's a club card I'm going to show you so you get a little heads up of what you're going to make. And it's actually one that was shared. So Stampin' Up! Sends emails to all demonstrators once a week, every Tuesday, and they give ideas, inspiration ideas, different things. And so this card is based off the idea that was sent last week. And so I made a couple little changes. So any of you who demos, you may have, it looks familiar, but I'm going to show you a few changes. And let me just think if there was anything else that's happening while we're waiting for people to get on. So bonus day coupon redemption is this month, I think until March 2nd. So if you earned any $5 coupons, you can use them this month. There is a really nice join offer going on right now. And so if you wanted to join Stampin' Up! For the $99 starter kit, there's only one choice this time, but you get a free tool, brand new tool that no one can order. It's called a Stampin' Positioner tool. So it's kind of like it's their replacement for their Stamparatus. And it's really cool. So I used it last week. Hi, Cindy, and you're very welcome. Happy birthday. And so that's happening until February 28th. And if you have questions about that, I'd love to answer those. And I feel like there was three things, but maybe that was just two things that's happening in the Stampin' Up! World. All right, so let's get to it. Let me actually just grab my catalog here to show you where the stamp set that I'm going to use. Let me go to my desk here. All right, so these are the cards. They're almost all the same. The coloring slightly different, and I did different sentiments. But let me just find it's just like super sweet, I like to call it, where there's a lot of stuff shown. So it's in the current mini catalog, and these are just some samples of the suite. But the stamp set itself, I'm using. Oh, I didn't turn my light on. Let's see if this is better. See if that's better or not. Let me know if you liked it actually without the light or if you like it with the light. We are using this set, which I have. I don't have. I didn't even bring up the set. We used it this morning. Mary Lou and I were creating. So anyway, so this set, and that you'll see, you can kind of see that the flowers are a good size, and dies do come with it. Not using them on this card, but this paper is just gorgeous. So I've been playing with that a little bit, and you have other stuff. And then there's even more samples using this suite. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of marketing as a wedding card, but flowers can be anything. All right, so I'm also going to change up some of the colors here, and I'll explain why as we go along. Let's do our coloring first, because that will need a little time to dry. I do have one that is dried, but if this one doesn't dry in time, we will use. I'm using watercolor paper, which works really nice when we add water to it. I'm going to use for coloring, I'm going to use my water pen. So that uses more water than say like the blender pen. So a lot of times when I use the water pens, I do like to use the water paper. I also think it has a really nice look to it. It may be hard to see, but it's a nice finish. All right, so let me put these aside here. Let me put that aside, and we are going to, I'll use this. And I have my stamps here. So you can't see it's a pretty big flower. I'm going to use StazOn black ink because we are using water. So whenever you introduce water to your coloring, whether it be watercolored pencil or the water pens, you want to use StazOn. When we use the blender markers, the blends markers, we want to use the other black ink, which is Memento. The blender pens, blends markers, get all mixed up, will run. when you use that. So that just stays on as for water. And you could always even write water on your ink pad or something. So if you have trouble remembering. All right, so we're gonna start with, this is just 4 by 5 1/4. We'll trim this down um, to do this edging. But for right now, I'm just gonna start with a standard kind of layer size. And we're gonna stamp um, one flower first. We're gonna do masking. Hi, Karen. Thanks for hopping on. Let me know if you like masking. If you've done it before, if you forgot about it. Sometimes I forget about it. All right, I just want to ink this up good. I do have a re-inker with me if we need it. I'm gonna offset that a little bit because I want a little bit poking out on the side because we're gonna trim it. And then with the other flower, I'll kind of tilt it this way. I always like to press in the middle to get those, it's all inked up now. There we go. So that's a pretty good impression, like that. So what I'm gonna do, actually, I'll do one here, and then I already have some done. I'm actually gonna put that to the side, and I'm gonna re-ink this again. I'm gonna use Post-it paper. This happens to be, I think, like their super sticky paper. The regular Post-it notes work fine too. Stampin' Up! Actually sells masking paper. I don't have any left. I've used it all up. But to be honest, the Post-it notes work out just fine. The masking paper is actually a little stickier, and it's the whole paper that's sticky versus the Post-it notes just have like the top sticky. They might sell all of it. I don't know, but I just want at least some of it sticky. So my top is sticky, and then we're just gonna trim it with scissors. Pretty close to the edge. If not, you want to get on the edge. I'm just gonna go pretty close. And this is key for masking, because we're gonna create perspective. That's what you do masking, because you want to create perspective. You want something like in front of something else. A lot of times, like, you aren't going to see the full image of what's behind. And so this kind of makes us do that. I'm just going to cut a little close here because I know I'm going to put a leaf on this side. All right, let's see. We finished cutting, and I just saw that somebody wrote something, and I'll read. All right, and sometimes if you know that you're not going to be stamping anything up here, you can even leave. I'm just going to leave that whole thing. It gives us a little more stick. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Karen says she's done masking, but years ago. I know, it's something you forget about. Kitty says, is there an easy way to remove text from a stamp? For example, I have a circle that says Merry Christmas, and I want to use it for another holiday. There's a couple ways to do that. Part of it is I don't know what stamp it is. One way is, say you had a stamp with an image with words. This is what I'm guessing is you have something here and it says Merry Christmas. One way is you can actually just cut it off. I've done that on many of my stamps. You just cut it with scissors, and then you'll have two stamps. And so then you can stamp your image, and then you can use your Merry Christmas separate, and then you could even use them together. That's one way if you have enough room between the two lines to cut right through. The other way is you can stamp, you can take actually, any kind of paper, but Post-it actually works because it sticks a little bit. You can put a Post-it note or paper on it. You can ink up your image, remove the paper. So your image has ink, but your words don't. And then you could stamp and you just get the image. Trying to think if there's another way of doing it. Those are the two ways that come to mind, but if anyone who's watching has another suggestion, type it in the box. Those are the two options I'll give you without seeing the actual stamp. There's a third way actually. If you had like the Stampin' Right markers, which actually I don't think they're selling anymore, but you can ink up what you want to be inked. with the marker versus putting the whole thing in an ink pad and then stamp it. That's another way. The markers don't work great with that technique on the photopolymer. They work great with a red rubber. I'll move that so I don't use that by accident. Okay, so now we have our mask. So we're just going to put this right on top of where we stamped. And you see, this is on the top, so I don't have to worry about that because I'm going to stamp below. So I want this flower to be the one that is kind of the closest to us for that perspective. All right, so put that on there. And then I'm going to ink up. I'm just going to tilt my flower in a different direction and I'm going to stamp it. And you can kind of see that the stamp is going on the Post-it note. So that part of the flower is going to be behind that first flower I stamped. All right, Kitty says, it's a circle stamp from the old Heroes to Cheers. I don't know that particular one, at least not off the top of my mind, but hopefully one of those 3 suggestions would work. All right, so just going to lift this up just so you can see now that flower is in front of that flower, but we're going to add some leaves. So I'm going to put that back. I'm actually going to add another one. You can see I've already done more. I'm going to add that, and probably should give this a second for the ink to dry, but I'm going to put this on top like that. And so it's not as sticky, but it's still okay. You can use them over and over again. Okay, good. Try the marker idea, especially if it's red rubber. The Stampin' Write markers is a good technique for that. So I'm going to put this leaf over here. I'm just going to add a little bit of scrap paper because sometimes I don't mind it going on the foam, but sometimes it doesn't dry. And then I would pick up the ink. You know me, I get it somewhere. So I'm going to stamp that. It looks kind of messy, I know. I'm going to move this over. And I'm going to stamp the other leaf. This is all part of that same set. I'm going to have this leaf come down like that. Okay. So I know it looks messy, right? I'll lift it up. Oh, good. I'm glad. So I'm going to lift this one off. And then I'm going to lift this one off. And now you can see that this flower is kind of, I'm going to say on top of, but really in front of that flower in the leaves. And as we color, it will become more obvious. So it's good when you have, I'm trying to think of different ways of masking. If you want like people in front of other people, or we've done it with animals, like you kind of having a line of animals. But anything you want, like perspective, so you want that in front of, then the masking technique works. All right, so now let's color, which is one of my favorite things to do. Let's close up that so I don't put my hand in it. So I had mentioned before, I'm going to use the water painters. They used to be called aqua painters, and they were blue. It's the same thing. And it actually comes in a 3-pack. So you get a finer tip, and I mean they're both fine tips, but a thinner one and a thicker one. You also get one I didn't bring up that's like it's like a wide paintbrush, which is great for doing like a brush background. And I also like to use water. Like you can put water in them. Hopefully you can see there's water in here. It actually even says push, so you can, on both sides, you can squish and water will come out of the brush. And that's one way of doing it. But to be honest, I just like to paint. So I'm just reusing my night cream, and it's a nice jar for water. Reuse them. So there's 2 ways of doing it. One way, I'm going to use peach pie and granny apple green. And you can kind of see I have ink. Let's wash that off so I don't get it on my fingers. This is many years ago, the old ink pads, it was easy to kind of like squeeze together and you would get ink on the inside cover. For this redesign, I find it's easier if you turn it upside down and you squeeze it, because I'm getting more pressure on my thumbs to put it on the insides. So you can kind of see you got that. What I also did is I just took a re-inker and squeezed the re-inker in here. And then you can add a little water. So now it's your little painter's palette. To do it this way, you get a darker color. And sometimes that's what you want. Sometimes it's not what you want. So I'm going to actually show you another way. I have one that I'm going to show you that is darker. And this, what I'm going to do right now is going to be lighter. I'm just going to take a block. I'm actually just going to stamp my block right in my ink pad. So now my block has peach pie ink on it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I already have some green on here, but I'm just going to refresh that a little bit. I take the block and just put it right in my ink pad so I get some green ink on there. So now I have ink on my blocks. And that's actually when you're sharing, like if you have a bunch of people, everyone can just stamp their block versus sharing the one ink pad. So I like to dip my my paint, it's a paintbrush in my water and add a little bit of water to my block and then just paint. So again, this is the black we used. The StazOn is a permanent ink, which means it's not going to run when we add water to it. I'm just going to turn that around and paint. And you can get as dark or as light. You can go back after it dries a little bit to put more on if you wanted to see like the depth of the color. And then how much water you have on there determines like how dark and light it is as well. So there is quick and easy watercoloring. I'm just going to put it in water and then get the green off my paper towel. And now I'm going to do the peach. So there's, I can repeat that the exact same way, or I can actually just add water first. I actually forgot to show this part to Club. I'm just going to add water to these top 4 petals here. And then I'm going to go in and grab a little water from there, or not water. And it actually kind of, the ink disperses to right where there's water. So you can do it that way. Or you can go back and just paint. And I do one petal at a time versus, coloring the whole thing. And actually did this kind of fast. I also like to leave a little white space in where my coloring, so which is actually works when you're doing it fast. And I'm just being careful over here because the green is still wet. So I'm actually going to try not to merge them because I will get a little green on the peach. And if that happens, it's okay. Just let it dry and then just put some more green on top of it. All right. All right, I'm going to put water here. I grab some color. And this is a fun technique too when you want to blend colors together because you can just add a little, even just little tips of color and then they'll blend on their own because the water just moves around. All right, almost done here. And I don't know if you can see my paper is curling or bowing a little bit, and that's because it's wet. And that's okay. All right, so I'm going to leave it like that. If I was to let it dry with the bow there, you can kind of see that, the water is going to the edge. So it's puddling over there, and that's fine. It's not going to go beyond the line because there's no water beyond the line. But as it dries, it will be darker there. So if I didn't want that to happen, you'll just take something heavy I don't know if this will be heavy enough to kind of flatten it a little bit. And so then, it won't pool to the very tips. So we're going to put that aside to dry. I'm going to move these Actually, I'm just going to take a paper towel and brush them off because I will get ink everywhere if I don't. All right, so let's carefully move these over. You can also use a heat gun to dry if you really don't want to just let it air dry. The Stampin' Up sells a heat gun that has two settings, a high and a low. I would do the low setting because if you do the high setting, it might spray heat and then the water's going to go splat, but the lower heat will just kind of stay on what's there. I know that because I've done it and I've had water spray everywhere. All right, but I already have one that's dry, and you can see that this is darker. It's the same ink, actually. This is the same peach pie, but I used it with the re-inker that was in the reservoir, and the re-inker is a highly concentrated ink. Think of like an extract. And I did add water, but it was still, highly inked. So it's funny. It's the same ink, but those are the two colors I got. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to take the Stimperite markers. And because this is a darker color, I'm going to use the darker. So I have Poppy Parade, Calypso Coral, and Peach Pie. And I'm just going to color these little tips here, just a little darker color. And I could have done it first and painted on top. I did that before, and that's fine. But I forgot. I drew down, and I'll actually get some in the middle here. It just, again, brings a little bit, it's a little less flat by having that second color in there. Okay. And now we are going to take your paper trimmer. You can do it with scissors too, but I kind of like doing it with paper trimmer because I know I'm going to get a straight line. Now, I have a little runoff here. I'm not worried about it because it's actually going to get cut off. So I am going to put the right edge over on 1 inch over here. And I'm gonna make a kind of a little mark from the top of the card down to approximately the tip of the flower. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom here. I'm just kind of eyeballing it because I can't really see. All right, so I have these two little slits here. Again, I could have done that with scissors, but I just know I'd get a straighter cut. And now I'm just going to cut. I'm gonna leave a little white edge. And this is thicker paper, regular cardstock. If you found, like I said, you could go back and touch up this if you needed some more definition of colors. I'm just noticing I have a little orange in there with my green. I could touch it up, but let me just leave it. It's a handmade card. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right. So there we go. So we just round that off a little bit. A nice straight edge with just the flowers there. So now we can cut our paper. So this was the kind of my first original one. These are all kind of the same. And again, you can see the differences of the coloring, the depthness. And this is what we just created, this edge here. Because this is so dark, that's kind of a little bit jarring. So this is actually Mary Lou's suggestion. She was here this morning. I'm going to make my card base a little bit lighter in color. I think it's a little bit softer on the eyes. So this is Lost Lagoon, and this is, I use Petal Pretty Peacock. So I'm just going to cut this at 5.5, which is just half, two halves. I'll put that aside for another card. I'm gonna score it at 4.25, which is what we normally do. And then I have a little note to myself. I'm gonna cut off on one side 1 1/8 inch. So there's one, and there's an 1/8. And you can do yours, you know, however thin or thick you want to cut off. But I decided to I did 1 1/8 because I'm going to cut this. This is going to go at 1 inch. So then my card base, it's like that. So it's a little bit shorter here. I'm going to attach this. I'm going to put this here so you can see it better. I'm going to open up my card. And then I'm going to put glue. Now, this is important. So see, I didn't stamp good enough, so I just stamped on the other side. And I've done this twice already. You want to make sure not to put any glue on this side. So you want to just go down, you know, straight down the straight edge over here and put your glue. And I would use glue or a strong adhesive because the watercolor paper, it's strong. So it needs a good stick to the cardstock. I don't want to put any glue here because if I did, it would just stay glued shut. So twice I have put glue on here. And so if that happens, just let it dry and then take it off with a glue eraser. All right, so I'm hopefully don't repeat that mistake I just told you. I'm going to just put glue straight down this way over. I'm going to fill a little bit in, which normally I don't, but again, I want this to be a strong stick. And then I'm going to line up this edge with this edge because I kind of already calculated that there'll be a border on this side. I know I did it. I cut off 1 1/8. If you cut off 1 inch, it would still work. All right. So actually, it's good I'm doing it on the silicone because I have a little glue that's spilling out. Ooh, I just must have had green on my finger and I just got green there. It's all right. Okay, so the card that I am copying from the Stampin' Up email, they actually left it was peacock color. But they left this peacock. They didn't put anything behind it. The other thing that they did differently is they colored all this white space with Pool Party. Just coloring it the exact same way we just colored. Actually, I'll turn it over this way. But I kind of liked having a pattern here, and it's a little bit softer instead of the starkness of the blue and the orange. So that's why I did that. So I have, hopefully, there we go. So I have white, and that's just a standard layer, 4 by 5 1/4. So I'm going to add that there. And I could leave it like that, but that's a lot of white. So I really do think this strip is nice. So this paper is from Lovely Arrangements that I've used a whole bunch of times. You can kind of see on the back side. So it's a nice stripe. And that's just going to go right there. I think it just cleans it all up. Goes right on the edge. If you wanted to stamp something on the inside, you can. You still have, you know, a decent amount of room and also to write a message. So that's much softer, I think, than if I was to do it with that color for this brightness. So the last two things we want to do, actually, I'm going to make sure that stays closed. That's a little bit better. Is I already embossed there, the Stampin' Up's card had another greeting, and they used the greeting from this set. To be honest, it was kind of wide, and it hid a lot of the color of the flower. So I didn't want to hide it. So I found another stamp set that had some thin words, beautiful motif. So celebrate, thinking of you, hello, just a note. And I actually emboss them all with gold on Lost Lagoon, which is the same color, which unfortunately, that's just what it's gonna be because I didn't have any, see how that, I did the Timid Tiger, which I liked that color. I liked the color with it, but it's a lot of like blank space, so I'm not crazy about that. So we will just put Lost Lagoon on there. So I'm just trying to think what I have already. I have Celebrate, I have Thinking of You, Just a Note. So let's do this one a hello. So I have one of each. So, and how I determined the width of that is I just measure, they're all about the same width. I just measured the width of the stamp and just added a little bit. And then I just stamped them all on there. All right, and I'm just going to add that with a dimensional. I have this one's almost, actually that's perfect size. Little edge. Cindy says, beautiful. Oh, thank you. You have some watercolor paper, so I'll try this technique. Yeah, it's I love to watercolor. All right. Actually, what I love to do is make bookmarks out of watercolor paper. So this technique would look really nice on a bookmark. All right, so there we have hello, and then we'll just add some gems. And I did different, oh, this one I didn't put gems on yet. These are from different sets, so just whatever you have. So these say antique pearls. And you could do a whole bunch, or you can do a few. We like to do odd numbers generally. So this one, actually, I like it when they have, I think I said this last week, when they have 3 different sizes, so small, medium, large, because then I can kind of do one of each. So I'm going to put the big one down here. And then I'll put a little small one and a medium. And I could put them down here too, and so you could see them. How do I do that on this card? I'll do a big one, a little one. There we go. So now even when you open it up, you have some pearls here, and that works. Having one might look kind of funny, but 2 I think works out well. And that's still 5, so that's our odd number. I'm gonna try to see if I can erase that later because that's gonna bother me because I had green on my thumb, on my finger. But anyways, that is hot masking with the Post-it notes. Again, when you want perspective. So now you really can kind of see, this one's a good one. The top flower is the one that is in front of the bottom flowers, and the leaves are tucked behind. So the fun technique, it's one like you guys mentioned, and I realize it's one I forget to use. Let's see. Cindy, I sorry, I have water paper. Just had my oh, don't worry. I read what you meant. If that makes you feel better. All right. I will take pictures of these two, and I don't want to push the wrong button. I'm going to take pictures of these two and post them online. And I actually realized I forgot to post the pictures of the cards from last week's live with Anne. And I don't even know if I posted what we made on my Tuesday email. So I'll make sure I get caught up and post all those pictures with the replay links behind too, in case you missed them. Yeah, I bet typing is tough, Cindy. I think you're doing a great job. Let's see what else. So again, I said this at the top. The redemption of the bonus day coupons is happening until March 2nd. The joining kit, if you want to join Stampin' Up! And my team, I'd love to have you. You get a free stamping positioner tool that will be available at a later date, is the official word from Stampin' Up! To everybody. But I think it will be available in the next annual catalog, which will be in May, maybe earlier, but I would think certainly by the annual catalog. And it's kind of fun. I'll use it again. I know I used it last month, but last week. I'll come up with something. I'll use it next week too to show. And I think that's what's kind of happening in the Stampin' Up! World. For those who are local, my registration's going out soon for my March 28th in-person stamping event. I was just working on the samples, which will help me determine kind of the sign-up stuff. So that's happening. And I think that might be it. So have fun stamping, have fun creating. Thank you for watching me live today, right now, and also on the replay. And if questions about anything, just reach out to me either email or Facebook message. I think those are the two better ways. And I'm just making sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. You guys. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day and happy Valentine's Day. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.